Michael Jackson. All right,
Oh, I
gets
saw
the
this
guy
video.
set up, does the moonwalk, and then DDTs him.
Is that NXT or?
No, it was just some
Random.
strange promotion. I'll find the video and I'll actually tweet it
Yeah.
because it's hilarious. So Tony, wrestling regains its worldwide popularity, or we find out UFC is scripted as well.
Wrestling regains its worldwide popularity.
Okay. And this is going to lead us into our Tony's I Can't rant, is it not?
Yes.
It should. And this is another reason why it's never going to happen that UFC will come out that it's scripted. Almost everything in UFC, I believe, is scripted. I wouldn't even go as far to say that the fights aren't scripted. Why? Because Dana White's a piece of shit. That is plain and simple what he is. He is a trash human who is nothing more than a bald Don King. Okay? He doesn't do anything to help the cause of UFC in any single way. He sells out his athletes. He forces them to have to be sponsored by certain companies. Why? So UFC can make money at the expense of taking away potential sponsors from his own athletes. And in his latest attempt at garbage is the nerve that he had to say about the fact that there was a 2-card at this last fight. Obviously, everyone knows Cormier wins against Stripe, and then we have Lesnar storming the ring. First of all, he knew Lesnar was going to be there. He had talked to Lesnar earlier that week. You're basically giving us the outline of your plan, you moron, about how he's going to rush the ring and say everyone else is shit. And he was telling Dana White that he wanted to come back and fight because he had to deal with other things. So obviously Dana White had a preconceived notion. I'm supposed to be led to believe that he didn't know that Brock Lesnar was going to pull this nonsense? That's bullshit, especially with a man who has so much control of his entire business. But what really irritated me was that the second undercard of the main event was between a guy that he had once said had the horsepower of a punch hitting you at something like 96 horsepower. This is a guy that lost his Stripe before that. But now he said this guy's ego got too big. You have the nerve to tell me somebody else's ego got too big when you go on television and say I'm the most outrageous shit possible to try and get your fight sold? There's only one other person whose ego even remotely closely rivals that of Dana White. And that's the garbage I talked about last week in LeVar Ball. Those are the only two people. But for him to say the nerve of somebody's ego got too big for them and that it was the reason that it ruined his product, no. It's because you're a piece of shit and you hype up people without even thinking about what the hell you're talking about. And when it backfires on your face, you blame somebody else. Stop talking. Run your business.
Fucking love it. This is my favorite segment. Tony, we took way too long to come to the conclusion that you need to do this.
God.
I think I agree with all of that. That was fantastic. Love it, Tom.
All right.
You're welcome. I can't stand him. Him and LeVar Ball. You know what? That should be the new Skip and Bayless.
Give them a show together?
Skip Bayless and remember when Skip Bayless was with
Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah.
Put those two in a room. They don't even have to be talking about anything. They don't even need to be saying words. They could just be gawking or squawking.
Never lost.
Yeah, like just say random things like one-liners.
Stay in your lane.
Like I'm pretty sure I could make that the most popular show on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. Tony, I just want to say that when it comes to you just ranting, you are by far the MVP of the show.
I'm the MVP of a
Regards
rant.
to our 2017, 2018, blah, blah, blah.
And in order to be an MVP, you have to understand when it's the right time to do the right thing. And Baker Mayfield has done just that.
I hate that I'm right.
This past week, Baker Mayfield proposed to his girlfriend. Remember that high-profile plastic surgeon employee that I talked about 5 or 6 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. Baker will now be the MVG, the most valuable groom, and the MVP of the NFL at the end of this season. That is why Baker Mayfield is your 2018-2019 NFL MVP.
That's fantastic. Now let's talk about something that people will actually put a smile on their face rather than the nonsense you just said. I do want to say that I am happy that all 12 of those children and their coach got out of that cave. And
Yeah, fantastic work.
big bravo to the Thai and U.S. Navy SEALs for going through and figuring out a way to actually make that happen. I kind of thought they were going to leave the coach in the cave.
I mean,
Just saying. Like, it was in the back of my mind. I'm
We
like,
did lose one Navy SEAL, right?
yeah, one Navy SEAL did.
one Thai SEAL
Yeah.
lost his life, unfortunately.
Yeah,
He ran out of
sorry,
oxygen trying to bring
the
oxygen.
hero. Fantastic effort all around, though.
Correct. Absolutely. 100% right. Great effort. Very happy ending for 97% of the situation.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but things could have been a lot worse, and they were racing the clock, and the fact that they were able to pull this off in the 3 days that they did is quite impressive. So happy everything worked out for the children involved, and condolences to the individual who lost his life for a much greater cause.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We got some fun stuff continuing on here. We're moving on to our sports tweets of the week. One is not funny. It's not something we condone, but I think it's something that I'd like to touch on for a moment. First tweet comes
This
from...
better not be bigoted.
Second tweet... No. First tweet comes from Dick Vitale, and he shared or tweeted, an article about an AAU basketball team that just starts pummeling the official, the referee,
Like, physically assaulting?
like physically assaulting them.
Oh, bad look. What were they coached by Ball?
Probably. Dick Vitale tweeted, "What are they teaching these kids? The AAU circuit, in many cases, not all a flat-out bad example for helping young people to learn super values. Take a look at this pathetic situation." And Tony, I'm going to show you. You can see the photo. There's a kid stomping on one of the refs.
Jesus.
Yeah,
They should be banned from ever playing basketball again.
that's the argument that a lot of people are making. They should be banned from high school and college basketball.
No, period. You're not allowed to play again. Obviously, you don't respect the sport enough to be a... If I had seen this would have been the rant. But you obviously have no respect for the game itself and the integrity that comes with actually playing a team sport or a game in general. And you shouldn't be allowed to do it. You clearly are not responsible enough to be trusted with such a small task.
But this is what happens when you get people like LeVar Ball telling people that, oh, you're a superstar. You're going to go to the NBA. You're going to be great.
I think parents have a responsibility here too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because how many times do we see parents screaming obscenities at referees when their children are 6 and Jimmy can't skate in anything other than a circle?
I had an experience when I was in 7th grade. We were playing football at Scotia, and one of the fans, who happened to be a parent of one of the players for the Scotia team, threatened to attack a couple of us football players. Even came down on our sidelines.
That's classless.
Yeah.
You people need to have a little bit more decorum and actual civility when it comes to things, especially, I mean, in the day and age that we have now, but especially with sports. Sports is supposed to be an outlet.
It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be enjoyable, and at the end of the day, it's a effing game, man.
It is a game. Yes.
It's gonna end.
At
Some
that
people win,
level.
some people lose. That's where you learn life experiences from. And if you're going to take it to this, you're clearly not learning what is meant by the actual activity itself.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% right. It's a team game that is supposed to teach you leadership. It's supposed to teach you to become dependable,
Responsibility.
disciplined, responsible. Absolutely. And when you have these little assholes is what they are, who, I mean, I've said some things that I regret to referees, but I've never in my life thought about punching one. I've thought about it, but I've never done it.
I've never thought that it would be acceptable to even put your hand on a referee. I may not agree with their call. I may have told them their call was bullshit. But I would never think to get physical with a referee. That's just...
Let's
it's
get
uncalled for.
physical. No, you're right. It's garbage. These kids clearly do not value what they're doing, and they need to be taught a lesson. If I am a college, I don't care how good this athlete is, I'm not going to sign them if I have a chance at landing one of these players, because they're just not worth it. It's not worth it. Oh man.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I can't believe that even happened.
It's a shame, but it did. Let's move on to the next tweet. Tony, this is going to be one that probably stings a little bit for you.
Great.
Typical sports fan at TSF96 tweeted, with the NFL lacking good tackles, it is incredible that Nate Solder is the worst left tackle in the NFC East. The left tackles are Dallas Tyron Smith, New York Nate Solder, Philly Jason Peters, Washington Trent Williams. He's right. They're right. Left tackles are hard to come by. In the NFC East, a top 10 left tackle in Nate Solder is the worst in the division.
That being said, it also shows the premium that the NFC East pays on offensive line.
Right.
So, okay, it kind of stings, but that being said, it shows what's necessary to be successful in the NFC East.
Absolutely.
And what passes as satisfactory around the league.
Right. Let me ask you guys a question. Do I say absolutely too much?
Absolutely.
I'm going to try and find a new keyword to use, because I find myself
actually,
saying
to be honest,
absolutely.
I haven't noticed it, but now I'm not going to think of anything else.
Right.
You just kind of written your own tombstone there, Dan, on that.
Yeah, because, I never really thought, how much does this guy say absolutely? But now it's all that I'm going to hear.
I'm going to start saying claro que sí from now on, which is Spanish for of course.
Of course it is.
So, next sports tweet of the week, we've got Richard Powell at RAPowell90. They tweeted, it's almost like we're a country who needs a reason to watch our national team didn't qualify for it or something. Horrible English. But they retweeted TikTok by Bloomberg. U.S. viewership for this year's hashtag World Cup broadcast is down 42% from the tournament 4 years ago.
Okay. First of all, I will gladly address this idiot. Not that he's listening, but I might need you to send me that handle, because this kid's a moron. Of course it's down 40%. It's being broadcast in Russia, okay? And in the middle of the damn week. Usually, when it was Brazil, guess what? They're on the same flippin' time zone that we're on. It's not at 10 o'clock and 2 in the morning.
Exactly.
So, of course, the numbers are going to be down. Idiot. People have to work. Except for you, who has time to tweet things, but can't apparently, reread them. Dumbass.
It's a good point.
I have to say that us not being in it definitely did affect viewership, though.
Oh, 100%.
I think the time zone's the biggest thing.
I'm sure it has an effect, the time zone, but I'm sure America also not being there has an effect, because Americans, especially American sports fans, have an idea of we're in it. If we're not in it, why should I care?
Right,
yeah,
right.
With a sport like soccer, that it's not as popular here.
Oh no.
Yeah, it already struggles to gain viewership here.
Nobody watches MLS games either, Richard.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. Melissa Jacobs tweeted, I'm not really looking to do a lot of work right now. I'm looking to do the exact opposite of that. Quoted to Jay Cutler.
When has he been doing a lot of work? Have I been sleeping on him his whole career?
Listen, he is by far the hardest working at avoiding doing work.
I'm pretty sure that quote was from 2008.
When was he drafted?
Like, I'm pretty sure that was like only a few years